Well, welcome everyone from all over. We have Florida and New Zealand and Sedona and Los Angeles and Colorado. And over here we are
In Taos, New Mexico.
Taos, New Mexico. I'm Shami or Shamaine. This is Sage Moon. And this is Sunbird.
Oh yeah. I'm Sunbird.
And welcome to our Sanctuaries of the Earth Mother community share circle. Every week we get together to talk about discussions of consciousness and connection with ourselves and most importantly our Earth Mother, listening to her and her guidance on how to move forward in this this earthly realm. And happy full moon to everyone. It is the full flower moon, and the flower moon is in Sagittarius this week, this month, and it is a time for this blooming abundance across North America. The flowers are popping up and they are seeding nectar. They are feeding all of our butterflies and our pollinators, and it is a time to pollinate, a time for this growth to continue, this heavy transformational period that we're in right now, and have been actually in our cosmos. What do you guys think about all those solar flares that we had going on? It made some
They were
crazy.
they were tasty.
They were
They were tasty, weren't they? They were pretty delicious. Felt really good.
um Christopher, did you have something to pop in before we open up the circle today?
Yeah, just the solar flares, they were amazing down here. Got out them totally visible with the naked eye, like just massively.
Oh,
So
cool.
we had them
Uh,
streaming through here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So thank you.
Incredible. Yeah, and it was causing everyone to see that aurora borealis all over, and that was insane. We didn't get the pleasure to see them here in New Mexico, or at least I didn't.
there was a bunch of clouds over here. Some people got pictures though, so there was a lot of pink and a light purple
So kind of connected to that,
crown, the
the
crown
crown and the
chakras.
third eye chakras. Yeah, totally. Blasting in through consciousness. So, if we could just take a nice deep breath together, and Sunbird's going to open up our circle today and create a safe space for us to know that we can communicate and share what's on our hearts. Each one of us has deep wisdom, and we want to hear from everyone if you are called to. And then I'll drop us into a little grounding meditation, and we'll open up discussion from there on our balancing the sacred union energies.
Oh, oh, good. Let's just stop, breathe. Connect with the heartbeat of one another from afar. Biak gindi. Kuna wa na biak gine ta, so undi ne ta. Ra baiki bodi kuna po win champo wimui. Ra sigiat ni se kantni andi wa citadi. Pingang sha pongang sha mi. Doe. Tampie kompie tampie pimpie opa kuri nan sugi nugi pie se kani muni hio te kito anua new kuinwa se wa viambe. Thank you, Creator, for this blessed and beautiful day for us all to live amongst this earth. Call upon the spirits of the elements in this time to come and center us and to hold us, all the benevolent beings of light to watch over us in this time. And and to bring health to our minds and souls. And Creator, we ask you to watch over this in this time and to hear our conversations, to hear our voice, and to grant what we are praying for all together. We thank you this day, Creator, and I pray that you all have a long life and good health.
Feeling that those sweet blessings coming in with your breath. Feeling and imagining the illumination of the moon. It's rising in the sky above us. And feel the light of the moon coming in with your breath and swirling through your fingertips and toes to your third eye. Imagining that white light of illumination cleansing you with every breath. And feeling all the cells illuminate as you ground into this moment, allowing all things to flow down through your feet into Mother Earth that do not serve and support your presence here in this moment. Anything that does not support your heart space and love moving forward, allow that to melt with your exhale. And with every breath, feel the roots growing from you, from wherever you're sitting or standing or laying. Feel your roots growing down into the soils of Mother Earth. Every breath, every inhale, expanding and growing deeper, reaching that mycelial network below, connecting to all the organisms around you, all the trees that may be around you, the plants, and imagining each and every one of us connecting through the soils, across the lands to each other, connecting our roots together. Bringing that illumination of the moon and the sun through every breath, knowing that each one of us carries a light. And as we connect energetically, we expand our light as a collective. So may our throat chakras and our hearts be connected and expanded to each other. May our bodies be at ease. And may we listen deeply to what our Mother Earth has to speak us today and every day. And with a nice deep breath, maybe bring your hands up above your head and stretch them out. Exhaling down and opening up to this moment. Gently letting your eyes open. So, thank you. Thank you for a beautiful opening. So, what this week's topic came about, I was hiking up from a hot spring here in New Mexico just the other day, and it was sunset, and I was feeling into that illumination of the moon. And then I started feeling into these dualities of the sun and the moon. The sun holding a very masculine energy, a action oriented, the drive. What else would you say about the sun?
Warmth and comfort and growth as well. And I've been feeling that with the sun, laying down in it lately and just being like, so comfy. Thank you, grandfather, sun. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have our grandmother moon in that dual opposition where she represents the emotion, the feminine, the nurturing. And I was feeling into just those different dualities, the yin and the yang, the masculine, the feminine, and grandfather sky, mother earth, and how we can come into balance between those, and how life is really just one big transition between those extremes. And the whole goal to me in life is finding the balance between the dualities. And whether you're in relationship, whether it's on the micro as a relationship with yourself, finding balance in those dualities, balance in partnership, or on the macrocosmic level of our world coming into balance between those masculine and feminine energies. I think that there's this need for gentleness through those transitions and going without judgment and criticism and allowing ourselves to feel. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I agree with that. And I was in our personal lives, we've been going through this deep thought of the masculine, feminine, and what it is that we are meant to do together, as for me and Shami in our relationship. And so we've been really talking and acting on those roles of what a feminine nature is and a masculine nature is, and learning how to balance it. So it's definitely just been in the air for me and Shami around here. So, and seeing how she said and everything, it all connects into everything. And the world is very out of balance as of now. And how when we're in like our certain clans and certain roles for a community, when everything stays balanced, because the women have their feminine things to do and the masculine have their things to do, and then there's certain things they do together. But then that's how civilization has thrived for thousands of years, by having a balance in that. So now is the time for like Shami was bringing up earlier, how through a long time it was the masculine taking over the feminine, especially around Europe and here in the US, and
all over the world. I mean, we've
so many
had
places,
wars and destruction and power and pushing and that force and that action, right?
Yeah, and it's spreaded everywhere. And now it's the women are rising up, and prophecies say that it's time for the women to rise up, and for us men to let the women do their thing. And with that, then the woman's teaching, it also comes with learning how to work together, because that woman, that feminine, is so compassionate and forgiving and merciful in a sense, at least what I feel from a feminine nature, that they're willing to give the man another chance to think about how to balance things out and
to nurture.
We're
nurturing.
Yeah, it's a baby. So yeah, that's what I have to say to that for now.
Hi to everyone in Pine Ridge, by the way. Thank you so much for joining us over the telecommunications. We are so grateful to have your wisdom here and looking forward to hear what you have to share as well. And yeah, thank you, Sunbird, for that. We have been in such a masculine era for centuries and centuries, and the age of Aquarian shifted that, and it's shifted into this feminine nurturing. And even in there's radical feminism and radical masculinism, and neither one is healthy because it's an extreme. And so finding the balance between the two is really where that juicy, sweet nectar lies. And I'm really curious to know how um, yeah, I do have I have a question, but and maybe I'll ask that after Christopher and Jim give their input. Um, so go ahead, Christopher. You had a reflection.
Yeah, just as you were talking, Sunbird, one thing that I've been aware of lately, I've been feeling that shift from the masculine doing energy to the masculine shifting to, instead of operating from doing in concepts and projects, to coming from our feelings, acting from our feelings and intuition, our instinct, which is our deeper knowing, which is letting go of that sort of mechanical side, which is, as you were talking, I could feel that was the wounded male. Whereas the male coming from the feelings is the aligned masculine. That's where feminine and masculine work together. We're still using masculine energy, but in a feminine balance. It's not just masculine coming from a separated point of view, which is where the disconnected us has been, which
Mm,
is the ones you're
Yeah.
referring to in Europe. That's that separated mentality. It's that hierarchy. There is no hierarchy in nature's world. There is no hierarchy in the mother.
Yeah.
To me,
Yeah.
it's feeling that togetherness that we find in relationship. Well, we should have a relationship with our whole family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nobody's separate in our hearts, but we separate from our hearts and then perceive people, and it's not the place to come from. It's that heart space all the time. That's what brings us back in balance. I'm feeling as you were talking, but yeah, as I say, doing energy, wounded male feeling energy, balanced.
mm,
Feels more whole. I feel more breath, more vitality with it,
mm,
coming from an aligned place. So it's the male and female in balance within us as much as the feminine coming into balance extreme.
mm.
Both are
Yeah.
welcome and both are time.
Yeah.
And both are equally important. It's
Yeah,
about
thank you.
symbiosis. Hmm.
Totally. Yeah. Okay, talking stick in the middle. Jim, all yours.
Thank you, Christopher.
And
Unmute. That always helps. Yeah. Hmm. I was going to bring two, but also from one of the grandmothers who says, first of all, thank you, young man. That was a good description of the male actions in the recent past. But just a reminder that we're stepping now into the sixth earth, and that each one before this has been either controlled by the men or the women. As you were saying, we don't have that anymore. And it has to be an equal balance. And yes, to get there, obviously the women have to come up and have to let it drop down. But this time we can't do this. We have to meet here. And
yeah, I
that's,
can. Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to be, maybe it'll be easier than I think, but we're all going to have to give a little. We're all going to have to accept some things to get there to be as balanced as possible, because then we can go ahead and begin to actually create rather than fighting with each other. That's all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jim. And if anyone is, does everyone know how to raise your hand on this thing? When the talking stick goes back in the middle. No, not
Sarah
quite.
says no.
Sarah, you can raise your hand. Want to make sure everyone is
Sick.
seen and heard as they want to be. So Um, but that is a good way to keep the talking stick going around. Um, yeah, so that coming into balance, that meeting in the middle ground, the feminine rising up and the masculine just chilling out a little bit and meeting halfway. And that's, I think, where, that the ego and the insecurities, they have to really melt away, because it's only when we drive with the mind, drive with the ego, that those things do come out of balance. When we're in our feelings and we're just listening, then we tend to, I think, have that balance naturally. And I think it's many other things that pull us out of that: pressures from society, and pressures maybe even, like, I notice, just growing up in the city a lot, I've had to be so masculine, and I had a single mom who, she took on both roles of the masculine and the feminine, and she had to lean into that, and she leaned into the masculine a lot because she didn't have a safe masculine to hold her, so she could actually be in her feminine. She could actually be soft. She always had to, and I felt like I've always had to have the power, have the drive, keep going, like, and make things happen. I've had so much sun energy, and it's really just been in our relationship where I've felt like I've been held by a masculine energy to soften, to I've always been in my emotion, but he reminds me very gently to just be gentle, to slow down. And I think that's really important in any relationship we're in, familial, in passing, work relationships, whichever, allowing each other to be in those different states.
Yeah.
Talking stick in the middle. Christopher. Volume.
Yep, like Jim says, unmute works really well. Um, yeah, just as you're referring to there, there's work I've been doing recently, looking at the difference between thinking brain, awareness, which is your doorway between the world of time and the world of the moment. Our feelings work in the moment. You can only feel in the moment. When you feel, it's now. You can't think of feeling, which is in time.
Mm.
Feeling brings us into the moment, which is why going to the heart is so important. It's that first step into the moment, into presence, and coming from a state of present, which has a different mind to the thinking brain. Interesting sounds. To me, the brain
Bird
cannot,
hitting the window.
Bird hit the window.
I hope it did so lovingly.
It was really resonating with what you were saying. It was like, I want in on this conversation.
I love it. Yeah. Blessings to the bird. Um, yeah, so I've been playing. So that meditation I do, it uses 3 breaths. We've just cut it down to 3 breaths because when we learn to breathe in the 3 rhythms, the first one's thinking brain rhythm, the second one's awareness, the third one's consciousness. These things actually have a rhythm, they have a pace, and we can drop into these and then come from that space. And yeah, we've been having fun with that lately. There's multiple of us here that have been practicing with it.
Mm.
Um, so when I come over, I'd like to share it with you guys a lot more.
Mm.
Yeah, but it's a thing. The world of time is only the brain that operates in time. Instincts and intuition operate in the moment. Yeah, we can go there. It's a aspect of consciousness and it's totally choosable. Talking
Mm.
stick in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said. When we're out of the mind, we're in the body. When we drop into our breath and we're just feeling, we're being present, then we tap into that yin energy, that softness, that listening, the nurturing. Mm-hmm. Um, Anyone else have any other add-ons to that? So I'm curious, How do you feel in thinking about the sun and the moon and the different qualities that those two um, bring? How do you feel in your daily life that you take on that sun energy and that moon energy? You know, how do you feel like that masculine energy or that feminine? And does it feel in balance for you? Anyone?
Anyone? Jim.
Jim, go ahead.
All right, because I don't want to leave you hanging there too long.
Yeah.
It's it's interesting. I thought about this the other at a sweat lodge the other night. I poured a sweat lodge, and Gentle Thunder was there. And just as we were getting ready for the lodge, it was really wonderful because the sun and the moon were both up. We could see them both. And I don't know if it was you, Thunder, who commented on that or someone else, but we all stood there for a minute. And I certainly stood balancing out my energies because I had asked of people going in to be part of this lodge and do some of the elements. So we found the masculine and the feminine. So sometimes right there, nature around us, able to connect with that and into your being. And there's times like all of us that I feel one side more than the other. Sometimes we need that. Other times I'm like, whoa, okay, gotta shift a little bit the other way. So I'm back more into balance. So I don't know if that answers you, but it's
Mm.
one part of, for me, how I get in there. Stick back in.
I hear you on that. I like how that I can see that, and that's happened to me as well, is seeing where the sun and the moon are equal. They have met in the middle. And that is nature's reminder of that balance. Beautiful. Molly.
Um, yeah, I don't know if I really think about it like that, like masculine and feminine. I definitely do feel that there are times when I have to push and, there are times when you're just receiving. And I think that's kind of more how I think about it more than like masculine, feminine. Um, but I do think that springtime for me is a time of where I just receive. I feel like it's just easier to just, in the winter, it feels like it's when you're doing the hard, heavy push through.
Hmm. It's the talking stick in the middle. I
Back,
hear you on
back,
that, and that I just comment on Molly reminding that the word receiving, the feminine is receiving, or just that energy, the receiving energy. It's a softer, a gentler, nurturing energy. Um, and it's not just masculine and feminine. It's yin and yang. It's just the balance between those extremes and dualities and the union of that. But yeah, thank you for that reflection, Molly. Christopher.
it's interesting. There's a few experiences lately I've had sort of playing with the sun and the moon. Like myself and my flatmate, we go for drives periodically. When we go in the day, we find coming back, you're driving a lot faster. There's more cars. You've got to sort of keep pace with the traffic so it doesn't interrupt the flow too much. When we come back at night, I'm not joking, sometimes we come back at 20 kilometers an hour because there's nobody on the road. It's gentler. Nature feels more present. We just feel that presence, and we're just being with it, driving it, as I say, 20 kilometers an hour, which is quite slow. Uh, it's a different in the energy it brings to that time of the day. We're more likely to sit on the side of the lakeshore and just breathe, you know. And recently we sat on the side of the lake and watched sunset from the very beginning to the very last of it. We just sat with it, and it just felt like a moment. It becomes a timeless time, the feeling time. Whereas the sun energy sort of has that sort of doing, wake up, get into it. And I'm somehow wondering if there's an imbalance there. It's when we have both the sun and moon in the sky together. I'm wondering, Jim, did you feel more of a sense of balance with that? Talking stick in the middle.
Definitely felt a sense of balance, yeah. And I felt it coming into balance. Boy, it was first inside, and then I carried that into the lodge. And it was probably one of the strongest, most powerful, most healing lodges I've been in. Certainly one of the best, not best, but one of the strongest poured. Partly that was because I gave up the power of it, woman who was next to me about halfway through. And it wasn't planned, it just worked out that way. And likewise with Gentle Thunder, who was holding it. And so we had a nice balance in the lodge. And that's something I will be carrying forward for sure. Did some of it before. Sue did a little of it. She would welcome rocks and often do some singing, but we hadn't done it, hadn't consciously done a male-female connection on the energy. And I think any place we can do that right now is going to help with this whole shift. And why the grandmothers are saying, you're right. Okay, so I'll go with them. Talking stick in the middle.
Molly. Thank you, Jim.
I just thought it was interesting when he was talking about the sun and the moon, and we're coming into this full moon. When the moon is getting full, it does take on these, ideas, metaphors that are closer to the sun. When it's in its fullness, right? It's so bright and it's shining. Then people, like you were saying, you drive slower at night. When the moon gets full, everybody wants to be active and be crazy and go out and do things. And so that was just really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point. Did you want
No, I have a question after you.
Okay. Yeah, and I love thinking about the phases of the moon. And you're right, like the moon does take on that activeness, that like whoo, that like drive, like energies are high when it's a full moon. And then when it's that new moon, it's our time to go inward, to listen, to slow down. And it's like us women on our cycles, and when we're bleeding, we are meant to go inward. It's our internal ceremony. It's our time to slow down. It's that like new moon energy. And then the opposition when the full moon, and in our ovulating cycle, we're hyped up. You had a question, yeah.
Hyped up. Yeah, so my question to you all was, what does masculine and what does feminine mean to you personally? Uncle Jim, talking stick.
I'm going to drop back to what Shami was saying for a minute.
Okay.
On this land where we do the lodges, so I pour at the lodge, and this lodge was co-ed, it was for everybody. But on the land is also red lodge. And so the women come pour the lodge for their time a month. And I think that's part of the reason land feels so balanced when we're there. It's a nice balance of what's there on the land too. Now jump to Sunbird's, his is harder. What is
Harder.
masculine, feminine? Well, I'm looking at you two, and I was there when you two were first meeting and getting to know each other. And now I see much more of a balance between you. I see an energy that's moving between you both that takes time to develop.
Oh, Sham, Sham.
I know Shami, but other than that, it takes time to create that, and it takes willingness. You know, we all, and it takes the ability to work with some things. They're not always perfect, but when you can get to that, isn't that a powerful feeling? And to me, that's the true masculine and feminine, because then combined, you're demonstrating both pieces. I hope that made some sense. I'm done.
Yeah, made sense.
Takes a lot of communication. And I think on a micro and macro level, whether you're speaking to yourself, like, what do I need right now? Do I need sun or do I need moon? Do I need action or do I need rest? Do I need to give or do I need to receive? It takes that really clear communication to feel into how you maintain that balance. And knowing that, like, it's gonna shift. It shifts on a 24-hour cycle, and it shifts on a monthly cycle. It shifts on a yearly cycle, you know, like, we have to be okay with what we can't control. We have to be okay with our emotions coming into play in the middle of the day. This morning I freaking cried for, like, it was really rough this morning. I don't know what it was, but I was feeling a lot, a lot. And thinking of those dualities, I was like, wow, I'm really in my emotions. I'm letting things flow. I feel like this sappy moon energy of all of that. And then I went and sat out in the sun and was like, let me feel that life force. Let me feel that vitality. Let me let that sun come in and kind of cleanse me and brighten and illuminate me, but not dismissing all the feelings, really appreciating every single bit of those feelings that were coming up and being aware of them, being conscious of them, being like, hi, how are you? You're there. Good to see you again. I'm not sure why you're coming up right now, but I love you. Does that make sense? Talking stick in the middle.
Yeah, you've almost spoken to what I was going to bring up. I find getting a sense of balance with women in my life is listening and hearing. And it comes back to that, not listening to my own brain analyzing and adding stories or anything, but it's listening to what the words you're actually using. What do those words mean for you? Which is a feeling. You know, what am I feeling with these words? Not from me, but from you. Do I hear you? But it's not making the other person more or less important. It's then also having space where I can use words that feel heard as well. And there's that balance of feeling heard, expressed, understood, communicated, not just by the other person, but within ourselves at the same time. You know, sometimes the words flow, sometimes they don't. Okay, what words can I use here? How do I change them? How do I communicate? Is it my words? Is it my body language? What is it? And this communing between the two becomes a dance, which I call the dance of life. And the more we learn this dance, the more we learn the give and take of things, which is what I feel we haven't had in the hierarchical model. It's been one or the other. People trying to dominate or separate. You know, the biggest issue we've got is the belief in separation, and even the perception that that is real causes so many conflicts. Once we get to that place that we understand that there is no separation, it was just an illusion created by some thought, and the person didn't go beyond their thoughts and got stuck in the separation of thoughts rather than the connection of the heart and the emotions and the feelings and the understanding consciousness itself. All that works in connection. It's only the thinking brain that has any belief in separation. And it's just a belief, just a very persistent one from some people. Talking stick in the middle.
Molly.
Yeah, I come to the masculine and feminine a lot through the lens of storytelling. And in storytelling, the masculine is always a linear problem solver, and the feminine is always a holistic problem solver. And so, when I think about the feminine, I think about the patterns and how things connect. And when I think about the masculine, I think about dissecting to understand or exploring to understand. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that, and thanks for sharing. I think my point of view a little bit too is how masculine can be very linear, you said, and parallel on like direction. My friend put it like this one day. He was like, "Men are like a waffle, and women are like a pancake." And like, it's, you know,
That's awesome.
yeah. So,
And the balance is the syrup in between.
yes, the syrup and butter. Goodness. With some native huckleberry jam.
Mm,
It's good.
sounds good. Hmm. Yeah, that softening and that. I like the way you put that with the the pattern and connection in the feminine, and then the linear and dissecting with the masculine. Yeah, that feeling into like all those roots connecting and where they're leading, and that like logical, let me just figure this out. One thing that I keep going back to in practice since Waves of Wisdom last year, which is a wisdom gathering that our nonprofit Sanctuaries of the Earth Mother holds annually. It'll be second week of September this year in Sedona, and but our whole main drive was get out of the head and into the heart, get out of the logic and feel. And anytime Christopher and Jim will bring this up often, is that any time that we tried to use our logic and figure it out, logistic wise, figure out all these things, we got nowhere. And then as soon as we just like stopped, breathed, went into the heart, all those things started coming to us. The people started coming to us. The music came to us. The venue came to us. And we were in that receiving mode. And so I think we have this pressure, especially if you're in a city, to just like go figure it out, go make it happen, um, and use your logic brain a lot. And this world makes us use our brain a lot and emphasizes it so much. And we have to make space if we want our world to come into balance. We have to make space for that receiving and that nurturing and the listening and the feeling. Talking stick in the middle. Over to you, Grey Wolf.
Yeah, I'm thinking too. When communicating with the person of the other gender, how I listen is very important. I want to often enter my own feminine energy to hear her from that perspective. But then I also may want to shift back into my masculine so I can see, okay, where can we connect? How can we use that? But it definitely makes a difference. If I've gone in and talking to a woman, even if it's someone I'm close to, and gone in right away in my masculine and she's fully feminine, it's harder to communicate. So by shadow seems to work better. And then, get into our roles and see what we have to do. I don't know, just one little tool I use. Stick.
Yeah, and I think that's where it backfires, right? Because then, like just as an example, in business or politics, that women have to put on the masculine just to be heard. they can't be heard in their feminine. Not that they can't, but often they're not. So
Yeah, often. Yeah.
Right, it's that illusion of power. What's a power stance? It can take on so many different forms and perspectives. Here's my power stance. Dancing in the duality.
that.
Jim?
Yeah, I think, Molly, that's a good, but I think talking about opposite ends of the same thing. I'm talking about going into our masculine or feminine so we can better communicate with the other. And you're absolutely right. At times it becomes weaponized. And certainly politics, religion, I mean, it's all those systems we have to change, actually.
Mm.
It becomes worse. Seeing that all the time. So that's interesting. How we do it, why we do it, what are we trying to accomplish? Maybe that's all equally important. Thank you. Stick in the middle.
One of the things that comes up to me as you're talking there, Jim, is to actually hear what we're calling the feminine or the feelings. I have to be in my feelings. I can't hear feelings from a thinking place. I can only hear thoughts from a thought place. So if I want to hear feelings, I've got to be in a feeling place. If I want to hear somebody's deeper consciousness, I've got to be in my consciousness place. So we can only hear from that place ourselves. Otherwise, we're interpreting it. Like if I'm in a thinking place, I'll interpret feelings into thoughts. And then I'll give story from there. And the story's added to the interpretation. It just gets complicated. But if I want to hear feelings as they are, I have to feel the feelings as they're coming across, because that's the place that they're started from, that's the place they're perceived from, and that's the place they're understood from. It's like trying to understand water in the middle of the desert. It's easier to stand in the ocean. You understand water a heck of a lot more quickly. So talking stick in the middle.
Just, I don't know if you understand it more quickly, Chris, or in a different way. I mean, here we were, today I went with somebody who's staying here at the sanctuary for a bit. And we went down, do a couple errands, and she needed ice. And we had to go to like 4 places because we're in the desert. But it was real clear that it was a big deal. So there was this thankful expression when we actually found it. Sticking.
Yeah,
And after
I figured.
Christopher, yeah, Christopher, go ahead, and then I have a question I'd like to ask everyone. Go ahead.
I was just, reflecting. I was talking, using the desert wasn't the best one because sometimes the lack of something conveys the importance of it. So, talking stick in the middle. All yours, Shami.
Thank you for that reflection. Yeah, when you were talking about the water and the desert and the ocean, and I started thinking about the elements and how the elements embody those dualities as well. How are they, like, for my first thought was water takes on that nurturing, that cleansing, that that flowiness, right, of like the feminine. And I'm curious, but then I was like, well, how could the the element of water take on that masculine as well? Because in the middle of the ocean, it's roaring, it's raging, but yet the feminine is raging and roaring as well. In this like amazing book, Women Who Run with the Wolves, says, let out that rage, let out that, it's our wildness, our wild feminine instinct to take on all of those qualities. And so, yeah, any reflections on the elements and what they might embody? Christopher.
What I notice with it, especially as you're talking, a lot of it we're getting the duality of something, left, right, black, white, in, out, up, down, duality, duality. And I always describe it like a pendulum that swings from this side and it swings to that side. To really understand either of it, whether it's elements, dry, wet, windy, still, it's that middle line of the pendulum where the pendulum's neither left nor right, but it's both at the same time.
Hmm.
To me, this is the middle way. This is the path that understands both, is in touch with both, nurtures both, and is nurtured by both. And it's only in that moment of balance that we get what it's actually about. One often gives us a sense of lack of the other, which is both in balance. Whether it's left or right, male, female, it's an imbalance. It's in the mix, that middle line of the pendulum, that we find the balance of it both. Talking stick in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So maybe I'll go ahead, Molly. Yeah.
Well, I do a lot of witchcraft and we use the witch's wheel a lot. And in the witch's wheel, the balance is the spirit, right? So you have the four elements, but then in the middle we have the spirit, and that is the glue of all things. So, I do think all elements have sharp and soft and, fast and soft. But I think just getting back to the pendulum, when the pendulum is still in the middle, it is just our breath.
Hmm. So what do you all do to maintain that balance when you feel your pendulum swinging? What do you do?
Yeah, what do you do, or what do you think you could incorporate more into your life, and what do you have to share for others that may need that help and guidance?
Christopher's hand is up. Did you want to speak to that or something else?
No, I just love speaking. Um,
We love you
uh,
speaking.
oh, thank you. A lot of what I do is I still come back to that triple breath thing I've been doing recently. Because I find once we get used to the different rhythms of the breath, like the first surface breath we have comes from the thinking brain. The second one comes from awareness, which takes us out of the duality immediately. The third one drops us into consciousness. Duality is just a perception of brain activity. I find when we're in the moment, we don't experience the duality. And it's in that place that we actually find understanding, which is where unconditional love resides, lives, creates, lives, breathes, functions through everything. Everything is made from love, with love, in love, but not as a airy fairy concept, but as a creative source energy that breathes life into all being equally in the same. There is no difference, there is no separation. We just change our vibration to appear in different forms, but it's the same energy appearing in a myriad of forms. So I don't know if I answered the question at all, but hey, I like talking. Talking stick in the middle.
You ever thought about doing stand up? They'll just give you a microphone. You can just say whatever you want. I just wanted to, I'm preaching to the choir here, but nature for me is the quickest way to balance and the quickest way to the now and the breath and all that. And meditation, pretty obvious answers, but
But they need
Agreed.
reminding.
Yeah.
But we need reminding. Yeah. Nature. Exactly. She is completely always in the middle of the pendulum swing. She's just there. And I love when you said, what you last said, Christopher, was And just, I think what you all have been saying, when we're just here, we're in spirit, we're in breath, we're in presence, and we're in balance. And like you said, when the brain is thinking or the things are pulling us out into the extremes, that's when we're out of balance. And then we're like, oh yeah, Mama Nature, let me just like go lay on the earth for a minute and just be present. Such a beautiful reminder of what balance is. If only our whole world listened to her balance. Gray Wolf.
Yeah, I was going to share up three things for me that help with balance, but first I just want to put Chris Line at ease and let him know that he did answer a question. I don't think it's the who asked, but he answered some question though. It was a good one. Yeah, for me it was number one is nature for sure. That's the big balance point. Number two is nature, and number three is nature. And then after that, there's some, minor ways to balance. But yeah, for me, it's all about nature. And all my work has been in nature. And those who end up close to me are also very much nature because we attract each other. Stick in the middle.
Kiwi Shaman.
Yay, I get to talk again. Yeah, one of the things I remember, one of the first lessons I got from my original Buddhist teacher, and in Buddhism, in some of the schools, there's a joke they call go for the gap. When we're meditating and watching the breath, we feel that breath coming in, filling the lungs, and then it gets to the bottom and it turns round. But at the middle of that bottom, it's neither in nor out. And that's what they call the gap. We're going for that gap, for that briefest moment where the breath is neither one way or the other. And when you drop into it, suddenly you're in this space. And that's the space of like nothingness, but every potential is available. There is no thing, but there is space and potential. It's abundance with no thing. Nothing limited, but a sense of expansiveness. And yeah, so Buddhist joke, go for the gap. And yay, I got to talk. Talking stick in the middle.
Thank you, Christopher. So something that I definitely lean on besides nature, or I might do this in nature plenty of times, to come into that balance is yoga. I mean, yoga is not just a series of poses. It's about breath work. It's about listening to the body. It's about a meditative state that brings you into that homeostasis in the body, the mind, and the spirit. It's a yoking of all of those. And that practice, so I was teaching like a sun power and a moon power class. And the sun power was these active asanas in the morning, these poses where it was like strengthening, it was warrior, it was not necessarily fast paced, because honestly, I can't stand when yoga is fast paced. It's not yoga when it's like that. I will just put that out there. And, but it's, it calls on the sun. We do sun salutations that are just like honoring this big, huge fireball in the universe that is warming our whole entire planet. That is strength. And then there's a yin practice. And the yin, and then the sun power is more like yang, or yang, as some people say. So the yin practice is really slow. You could do 5 poses in one class, and you focus on your breath. You focus on that that unfolding of the heart, the unfolding of the mind, the melting of the mind. You focus on holding these poses for very relaxing poses in very comfortable positions where you could almost sleep in them for long periods of time, like 5 minutes. And so when I'm feeling out of balance, and if I'm feeling really in my masculine, really in my force, my action, and I'm like, wow, I'm overwhelmed. I feel anxious and I feel overwhelmed. Then I go into a yin yoga practice where I slow down, I breathe, I use my bolsters and pillows, and I support myself. I nurture the in between. And when I'm feeling really deep, maybe I'm a little like depressed that day, and I just am in a state of melancholy. And then I'm like, okay, am I honoring this melancholy? Am I honoring this state that I'm in? Great. And then now let me just put some power. Let me go out in the sunshine and do some active poses. So, and my roommate brought this up to me, as where my housemate Carmina, she brought this up to me too when we were talking about this, about these energies last night. And yeah, like that yoga always brings me back to balance, and it makes me slow my head down. And at least, if anything, it brings me into awareness of where I'm going. Because sometimes I'll start the practice and I won't finish it because I'm just like, because I'm human. Talking stick in the middle. What else do you guys do to bring yourself into balance? Is Pine Ridge saying anything? Any
Funny you
comments
should
from you?
ask. Yes, we were making some comments while you were talking. And one, I'm trying to, I think what they're saying is to come into balance often, can do the sort of things you're talking about, come into balance, calm down, move into it, feel into it. And men too often will push back because they feel that energy and it can make them uncomfortable. And I think that's valid. I mean, I've experienced it. Sometimes and it's like, oh, I want to get friends there, a woman friend, and I really want to connect, but I'm just too busy. So I'm not going to mess with that. I'm pushing it aside now, which means I'm staying up here, which doesn't do a damn bit of good when you're trying to communicate, and you pay the price later. So yeah. Okay, yes, I have it right. We'd be better if men would try to take on the woman's approach to this as well and do things that bring you into the heart and slow you down when you're feeling these things. Thank you for hearing us.
Mm, the slowing
Sticking
down. Christopher, you're muted.
Okay, great when it starts working. Yeah, me using a picture, the picture you've got behind me there is literally one of the things I do. I literally sit in nature until the brain activity drops out. I'm just in the experience of the moment, whether it's the ripple of the water, the feel of the moisture in the air, the bush around me, whatever it is. I just sit there so present in it. And I find when I'm there, time seems to, or doesn't seem, time ceases and it is timeless. I literally can sit there for an hour or two so easily. And to me, that's how I come back. I come back to the natural pace of nature and the way she comes across in my relationship with her. And I do that when I'm in presence. To me, that's what it's about. It's sitting in the natural flow that we all find, not just as just nature. So I've got to try and be nature. I'm following my natural flow in her presence. She brings me back to myself. So we both breathe. It's like our heartbeat starts to resonate. We feel empathy. and it's like she comes inside me. So talking stick in the middle.
I had something to say when Jim was talking about, but I forgot. So I'll just leave some space. And do you want to add anything? What do you do?
Yeah, I guess for me, I like to drum and sing when I need to come back to the center, and dancing is a big form of mine to be more in connection. My traditional dancing and as well as like some ecstatic dancing, then I can just flow around, man, and then and yeah, and get groovy with it, and then it feels all the waves of energy. It helps me connect more with the spirit world when I'm able to just fluid out my body, and then it sends me on this whole uh, uh, I guess my meridian points. I can feel my meridian points start to swirl around and connect with the flow energy all around the auric field, the force, and um, and then yeah, like what I recommend it to uh, my brothers a lot is if they're ever going through stuff and can't find the balance within themselves, and um, they're holding in a lot of anger or uh, disruption in thinking too analytical or thinking too boxed in, and they're trying to find a way out. I always encourage them to go and take time to pray alone, to go by a river and just listen to the water, like Christopher sitting there by the river, and and to eat some feminine herbs, like very gentle herbs, have some good teas, and
Like what kind of herbs?
I would say like roses, rosemary, hibiscus, lavender, um, mullein, and um, and if you're in the mountains, some South Hill herbs. It's a certain plant called South Hill. Really good for you. Oh, and lotus. I would say a lot of lotuses are very dream time and a feminine balancing flower.
Some lang lang. I definitely smell my
and
essential
smashing lang
oils.
lang.
Yeah. And smell my floweries, geranium, like you said, rose, and yeah, having those, and even like that red raspberry, it like takes me back to my womb space, and yeah, good cup of tea. Good point. Good cup of tea, and that dancing aspect as well. And when you said dancing, I thought too, like, so has anyone done contact improv? So it's this like you know how it's this it's such a dance of masculine and feminine, I feel like. And I and I'm so goofy at it. And he's like so good and flowy, and then I like will elbow him in the face or something. But it's
Blah.
this beautiful dance between, and you are you're leaning onto one another, and you're kind of like playing this move of like, will you hold me or will I hold you? And you have to
Yeah.
really give and receive. See, I'm not great at it, but I'm practicing. This is how we come into balance, practice. But it just, yeah, when you said dance, it reminded me of like how I've danced on my own for so long, right? Like I've stood in my own 2 feet, I've been wild, I'm primal, I do my own thing. But when you have to dance with someone, you have this exchange of energy, and you have to go back and forth. You have to say, am I giving right now and surrendering to someone holding me? Am I surrendering in that trust that they're going to hold me up? Or am I holding them? Am I giving or am I receiving? Is it a push or a pull? So, yeah, that's what came to my mind. Dance.
Yeah. Dance.
It's all practice. Talking stick in the middle.
So Valeria is another one to add to your list
Mm.
of plants that's very calming and dream state type.
Mugwort.
Drumming is, yeah, drumming is, you can't get any more drumming. The instrument used for so many things in the beginning and still is. So yeah, I do that a lot too. And then, I put my picture up there. Chris turned to Kermit the Frog. I go and ride a dragon. So we just use those.
Good, 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 Choo.
Gentle Thunder, do you have any wisdom you'd like to add? Anything that you do to put yourself into practice when you're feeling out of balance?
Yes, aloha. Sorry, I was trying to wave. I don't know how to use that darn thing either. I was trying to put my hand up. It wasn't
Oh,
working.
it should be in the more and then reactions. It'll be in the reactions wherever you see that in yours.
Well, your hand's just a little under your chin.
Your hand's right here, so you're
No,
close.
just kidding.
All right. Well, I'll figure that another time. So, here's a really, yeah, it was actually pretty recent, and I shared that, I think I shared this with Grey Wolf. So, sometimes when you're working with a client and it just kind of goes a little wonky during the session, and the person's energy is just siphoning, right? And you do what you can to bring the session back into harmony, back into alignment. And when it still doesn't, you have to exude more energy. and
Hmm.
this happened with me most recently, and I have to be honest, this was probably the first time this ever happened, and it really threw me off. And it was a session online like we're doing now, but the energy was so thrown off and threw me so off because I was already in this space of channeling, and all of a sudden, boom, I was taken out of it. I was like, what? Whoa. I just felt like I got blindsided, but managed to regain some kind of balance within to complete the session. But having to change gears mid through was something I'm not used to doing. So after the session was complete, I grabbed the sage, went outside, took off my shoes, stood on the rocks, saged myself, faced the sun, and just wiped myself clean and just like pushed it all the way down in the earth. And I was like, woo, okay, get this off of me. Yeah. And it helps to jump a little bit like we do in Qigong, just kind of do that jumping movement and just shake everything off. Oh my lordy, that was a doozy. And that almost knocked me on my butt because seriously. So that's what I did immediately. I didn't even have to think about it. It was just reaction and intuition. Like, this is what I need to do right now. And so I did that. And, to piggyback on, and I love all of your ideas of how you bring yourself back to balance. I love the drumming. I love the dancing. That's also a form of light language too, when we move our bodies and things like that. It's not just expression. It's not just moving. It actually does something. And, and because the frequency and vibration as we're moving however we choose to move, punk rock, ecstatic dance, waltzing, whatever it is, the movement, that vibration, just like our voices that carry songs, it all flows out into the ethers and it's received and we're all dancing, right? Even here etherically in this platform, we're weaving what we're dancing, call it what you want. We're doing it collectively together. So today I got to go out to Fossil Creek for the first time. It was a bumpy dirt road for 14 miles. That was brutal. My poor little pony, Ke Aloha, I kept apologizing to her. That's my car. I kept apologizing to her, saying how sorry I was that she was having to go through this. I thought for sure I was going to lose an oil pan or something along the way. It was that bumpy. And I was like, oh my goodness gracious. And we still had to go all the way back to get out, right? So 28 miles of that. But once we got to the destination, mind blowing. So nature, right? The water and the stones, the trees, the wind, the breeze, hearing the ravens, they're flapping their wings as they flew overhead, a butterfly flying in between us, even the dragonflies, gives you that sense of calmness by observing them and just helping you bring yourself back to like, ah, they are great teachers. We all know that. When we allow ourselves to slow down and observe our relatives in that way, whether it's the swaying of the leaves on the branches of a tree, or the wings of a bird flapping, or the cascading waters as it goes across the rocks, it always, 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 Shami.
Just taking in oxygen, that's all. I was seeing the weaves, I was seeing all of the
See
things you're
how amazing it
describing.
works?
Yeah.
Oh, it only takes 5 minutes. And sometimes how we respond, it could be 2 minutes, but it always, always, always calms us and brings us back, right? It just brings us back to center, brings us back to alignment. And so what was I stressed out about?
Mhm.
What was I angry about? What was I frustrated about? Oh, I let that person get to me, and why? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Mhm.
So there
Mm.
you go.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, Gentle Thunder.
You're welcome. I was listening. I'm still in like, I didn't change my clothes yet because I'm waiting to go take a shower, but I did plunge in the ice cold water because it's all melted snow. That in itself also, plunging in cold water. I know people are really into doing ice baths. It really is beneficial for the nervous system and stress and so much more.
Mhm.
And so we're getting ready to leave, and me and my friend, and I said, I'm going to go in. I don't care how cold it is. Let's do it. She goes, okay, let's do it. And so I go, okay, 1, 2, 3. Whee! It was
Yep.
wonderful, exhilarating. I got out and I was like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh. Oh, wow. And yeah, so I'm not visible on the screen because I look a hot mess, but I don't
I'm
feel a
sure
hot
you're
mess.
beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
And
I
I
don't
hear
feel
you
a hot
on the
mess, but I look a hot mess.
We're all a bit of hot messes. This world is a hot mess at the moment, come on.
global warming.
I
Global
can't wait
warming.
to go back. I can't wait to go back to there and other places, now that the snow has pretty much melted and, the streams and the rivers and the creeks are flowing. Now's the perfect time to go out. And, I brought my drum, she brought her rattles, I brought tobacco. And of course, first and foremost was to acknowledge, to pay our respects, to show up in with humility and be humble and grateful.
Mhm.
Wow. You know, express gratitude through our
Mhm.
instruments and through our voices of singing. And my friend Deva, she has this beautiful voice. I said, will you sing more, please? Because I really enjoyed listening to you. And then, you know, so then we did that firstly, you know, because that was important in that order. And then we had fun. And then we're having our snacks. And then, you know, let's go in the water and lay. I said, before I leave, I'm going to lay on a stone like a lizard. And I got to fulfill my wish. And it felt so good.
Mhm.
Yep. And that was after the plunge.
Mhm. And that duality, that hot and cold, the waters, that really brings into balance. It's not just having that ice plunge, but having that warmth after too. And it
Mm-hmm.
helps with, like you said, the nervous system. And it's always the best having a hot spring. If you have a hot spring in a river, you have the lithium to calm you down, all of the magnesium to calm you, and then the river just ignites the cells and reminds you, I'm alive. Anything that makes you feel alive, I think, brings you back to balance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just observing the beauty that all the beauty that's around us.
Mhm. So we'll take Jim's comment, any other last comments we may have, and then we'll close our circle out to give respect for our time. So go ahead, Jim, and then Nancy, and love to hear from you both.
Okay. Excuse me. I've been on a healing journey of my own for a number of months now, and it just came to a pretty good, really good conclusion. So I definitely be back in balance. I want to get out and go do up on the mountain for a couple of nights. So I think I'm probably going to do that next week. I've got somebody who will come and watch the dogs and blah blah blah. Now the other piece is from Pine Ridge from Tom, because we have to have a little fun with this too. He wants Gentle Thunder to remember the next time she goes there to help the elders write some songs. So the thing is, you're supposed to have 3 men elders, and then you put your tailgate down and you stick them in the back. And as you're going up this rough road, you get that's all. And they're laughing. Okay.
Oh, that was a good one. Okay. Awesome. I love it.
Mhm. Perfect. Nancy, so happy to see you.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. I forgot about this, but time went by. And so much shared about it being in balance. I think for me, the first thing is to pay attention and realize that I'm out of balance. The breath is amazing. Nature. Um, I wanted to get in here just at this last minute because I'm asking for healing energy from all of you wonderful people. I recently had gallbladder surgery. This is why I look a hot mess, gentle thunder, but I don't care. So I had my gallbladder removed less than a week ago. And so I'm healing, and it's been very emotional. And I guess that's the feminine. I'm used to being in the masculine and making things happen. So I'm being put in a place now where I'm having to ask for help. Not having to, but I am. And it's something I'm not used to. I'm used to giving. And so this is something it's a real lesson for me. And I'm healing and I'm really positive about the whole thing. I'm not scared anymore. I was super, super scared. My gallbladder almost burst. I was in tremendous amount of pain. It was really traumatic. So I'm reevaluating some things in my life. And I'm also in the feminine now and understanding that I can't always be a badass bitch out there, which I love being. So
Heard that.
I am in my feminine and I'm also knowing that I can move forward. And I just wanted to be here, even though I got late, that's fine. And just say please hold me in your prayers, hold me in your energy, whatever energy work that you can send my way. I'm ready to receive and continue to heal and become more whole. And I thank you all so much for being here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too. Thanks for asking for that, and we'll keep you in our prayers, you know.
Mm-hmm. Life does this funny thing. Life's happenstances come in to play to teach us different lessons. Injuries are such a perfect example of that. We're going, like you said. I like being a badass bitch, but it's time to receive. It's time to receive. I'm wishing you all the healing, patient healing.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Can we just take 3 nice deep breaths together, come into all this juiciness that we have shared?
Yeah.
Feeling the hearts of our brothers and sisters, our relatives, the animals and plants that surround us, and all of the blessings in between. And breathing in that gratitude for this life on earth in this moment. And sharing our collective energy together so we can move forward consciously with love. And breathing in that love for yourself. Breathing in that love for our brothers and sisters here today and those who are watching this after today. And then sending that love outward with a deep breath, wrapping around our planet a light of deep oxygen and healing. And sending so much light around each and every one of you as you move forward on your path with love within and surrounding, bringing it outwards with every breath and every step you take. Know that you are love and you are worthy of receiving that love. I'm honoring all of the elements that were called in today. Honoring the energy that they have brought forward so we could share all of our wisdoms and grow together as a collective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you all for sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom on this subject. And keep an eye out. I think sometime this week or next week, or I think maybe June 3rd or something, a few planets will be in alignment. So know that's coming up. Give thanks today for you all coming and joining this circle, and give thanks to all the elements and spirits that were with us in this time too.
Thanks,
Give me
guys.
one
Thanks,
last second.
everybody.
Thank you so much. We will be continuing our share circles every Wednesday. We might be spicing things up a little bit and bringing drumming and singing and just spirit guided show to incorporate in the future ones. So keep posted if you love what you have seen here and felt here and heard here, and you wouldn't want to support our mission here at Sanctuaries of the Earth Mother, we would really love, love, love and appreciate any donations that you may give. It helps keep our website running, helps keep our volunteers from our very small board of volunteers. There's 5 of us now, from pulling so much out of pocket, and any teeny bit helps. If you do not have monetary means that you'd like to contribute, but you still love our mission and maybe want to contribute by possibly participating in our board, in our nonprofit, guiding an event yourself, or joining one of our committees, we would love to have you and hear from you. So please reach out to sotemboard@gmail.com, or any one of us that you see here today. Raise your hand if you're on the board here. Christopher and Grey Wolf and Gentle Thunder. And let's see, Waves of Wisdom. We'll have a wisdom gathering, really fun time. We laugh, we cry, we play, we drum, we sing, we swim. It'll be in Sedona, second weekend of September. So mark your calendars for that. And fellow council, do you have any other things to add into, any updates, things people need to know?
I think you covered it. Now there's ongoing things, and we'll post them online as best we can, and just keep the energy flowing.
Keep it flowing. And if you think of something, or if you feel into something after this ends, please, you can comment in the YouTube. You can comment, which will be posted up, and this will be on YouTube. If you're seeing this afterwards, it's on YouTube probably. So, and we also have our Facebook group that you can continue this discussion on. And if you haven't yet, check out the previous shows. We have a lot of great wisdom that has been woven together throughout this year of gathering in these circles. So we are here to serve and support through love. And thank you all so much. Mwah.
Good night.
Yes,
Good
love
night.
you
Thank
all.
you all.
Good night.
Nice to see you, Shmaine.
Ahoy
Thank
ho.
you.
And
Oh,
good morning to Christopher, right?
oh, Christopher.
We're